You know, it's consistently and regularly with those airlines.
And, you know, end of the day, again, I'm not an expert on these. I'm sure you can fill us in. If a plane like this, even if it is maybe up to 20 years old, if it's maintained regularly, it shouldn't necessarily be a problem.
No, it shouldn't. You know, therein lies the question, really. Are we talking about a maintenance issue, or are we talking about something else entirely? The airline itself, of course, it is noted that it has been banned from operating certain of the aircraft type in its fleet from European skies. This, though, Boeing 737, it's not the type that has been banned. But, you know, if there is a ban in place, that implies that there might well be some sort of maintenance issue that the European authorities particularly are concerned about.
It's a really bad line to you tonight, Chris. We'll stay with it. We really appreciate your input. If we do lose you, I'm awfully sorry. It's just jumping around a little bit. Apologies to our viewers as well, but I hope you can bear with us. You're talking there about the fact that Air Company Tatarstan has had some flights banned over European airspace, yet we're hearing it does fly to, I think, what was I mentioning earlier on, Tel Aviv, and there's somewhere else as well, to Prague as well. So it does fly into Europe. What you're saying, it's the more Soviet-era planes that have not been allowed, but a plane like this, a 737, either the 3 or 4 or the 500 series there, would have been allowed to fly into Europe, yeah?
Well, indeed. You know, we're talking about essentially Soviet-era aircraft that have been operating over the last few years in the fleet, that have been banned from European airspace. But of course, you know, you talk about Tel Aviv, and the fact of the matter is there are other ways to get to Tel Aviv by going around European airspace rather than going through.
Got you. Do you know, as you've been talking, Chris, as I say, the details are coming through thick and fast now. We've got 2 lines through. Media reports, that's not saying it's confirmed or not, but media reports saying the pilot was only assigned to this plane not long ago. Now, I don't know whether that means that maybe he was not had the proper training on this, or hasn't done that many hours on a plane like this, a 737, or maybe he just wasn't the pilot to be flying it tonight. He may have come in at the last minute. Don't quite know what that means. But we are also hearing as well that this very plane, again, this is going to be verified as well, this very plane had crash landed previously at this very airport only a year ago. Now, the Russian media are reporting that. Now, this line that's come out now obviously puts a very different perspective on it, because, OK, it could have crash landed and been perfectly healthy and passed for clearance to fly again, or it could have sustained some damage, maybe. I'm just surmising. It's not often that a plane crash lands and then is allowed to fly again, or is it?
Well, no, it's not. It depends, of course, on what type of crash landing we're talking about, whether the aircraft had come down heavy and sustained some damage, but not serious damage, and that was repaired, and the aircraft was eventually allowed back to the skies. That is a possibility. We wait to see, as you say, many of these reports coming out at the moment. And all of this information has to be verified before we can actually pin our hats on something and say, this is the problem.
Yeah.
And this is the issue that the aviation industry in that part of the world is facing.
While you're on the line, and again, let's hope this line stays with us, because there's such a lot I want to ask you. I'm sorry it's a bit ropey, the connection. I hope our viewers, thanks for bearing with us as well there at home. The Russian aviation industry generally has had bad press. Well, if you're in the West, it's got bad press. If you're here, it doesn't as much. But i.e. that the old Soviet-era planes, we're talking about those Tupolev 154s, the 134s previously, that had been the workhorse of the skies here. As they got older, every time there was a crash, everyone would say, oh, it's an old-fashioned Soviet plane. But what is the safety like here? What is the safety culture like in Russia these days in 2013? I mean, it's as tight as everywhere else, isn't it, surely?
Well, I would hope that it's as tight as everywhere else, but it depends. You know, it's very much airline to airline. If we were talking about Aeroflot, then I wouldn't necessarily have consideration or concern about whether they're maintaining the airplanes properly. If I'm talking about this airline.
What legislation is there then to make sure that the air companies do this? I mean, it's not a two-bit airline, it's the national carrier for the Republic of Tatarstan.
Yeah, it might well be the national carrier, but it very much depends on whether the appropriate authorities in that part of Russia are carrying out the proper checks and balances on the airline itself to make sure that they are carrying out the maintenance that is required. But that is a question that I think remains open to conjecture this evening.
Yeah, OK. I'm just getting some more information actually through now. Let's see what we're saying here then. So, and let me just round up for our viewers then. Chris, thanks for now. If you maybe stay on the line, we'll maybe come back to you a little bit later. We'll try and get a better connection to you, because I know you've always got a lot that you can help us with here when this kind of story happens. Sadly, it does happen from time to time. You can always give us a lot more information and help fill in some of the blank spots for me and our viewers. We'll try and reconnect with you a bit later, Chris. Thanks for now. All right, well, the breaking news, if you just joined us, it's just a little after 13 minutes past 9 at night. We're not bringing you a weekly, the roundup of the big stories of the week. We've broken into that coverage so far to bring you rolling coverage of the unfortunate story, extremely unfortunate story that's coming through from central Russia tonight, a plane crash. What we know then, a Tatarstan Air Company Boeing 737 jet has crashed during landing at Kazan International Airport in central Russia a little earlier on. We think it happened at around about 7:30 Moscow time after taking off from Domodedovo Airport, one of Moscow's big three airports, at around about 6 o'clock Moscow time. On that plane, 52 passengers and crew. All of them we think have been killed. There were 46 passengers and 6 crew. Emergency officials say there was an explosion of some kind as flight number U9363. Now I'll read that again in case you're concerned about anyone who may have been on that flight heading that way. It's U9363.